Hello, everyone, and welcome to Africa Fire Mission's weekly virtual training session. My name's Mike, and I'm the programs director here at Africa Fire Mission. We're so excited that you took time out of your busy schedules to join us for today's training. Today, we're joined again by Brian Andersen. Brian served just about every role you can in the fire service, pretty much from top to bottom. Has a great wealth of training and knowledge on a variety of topics. But today he's going to be talking with us a little bit about mental health, so a little less about the physical aspects of emergency services, but how you can take care of yourself and take care of that mental health, which is just a really important subject we've got to focus a little bit of time on. So we're grateful for Brian. He's one of our best volunteers. So we're so happy that he's here for today's training. Also with us today, we've got Errol Sianga. Errol is Africa Fire Mission's fire safety advocate. And I'm going to have him get us started here with a couple words of encouragement.
All right. Uh, Good evening, everyone. Hi, Mike. Hi, Brian. Welcome to today's meeting, which is going to be super great. My name is Errol Sianga. I'm happy to be here and join you all in this wonderful, amazing forum so that we can learn and share. So quickly, I'll jump to a word of encouragement. A word of encouragement comes from the cross of Christ. The way it is designed, the cross of Christ, it shows us how we need to relate with our seniors and how we need to relate with each other. So that's why the relationship vertically and horizontally has to be continuous. So there's no way we're going to work in the fire station. There's no way we're going to work amongst each other if we ourselves cannot listen to each other and also cannot listen to people's suggestions. So as we are told, all our problems, we take them to the cross of Christ. That's how we need to take our problems to discuss amongst ourselves. So thank you very much, Mike, for the wonderful word of encouragement. And over to you back, Mike.
All right, thank you, Errol. Before we get started with today's training, I just want to touch on a couple of administrative items. If you stick around for at least 70% of today's training, which is usually about 40 or 45 minutes, we can get you a certificate of participation for today's training. If you get cut off or you can't complete today's training, you run out of bundles, there's another option for you if you'd still like to get that certificate of participation for today's class or for any of the classes that you may have missed so far this year. Keep an eye in the chat. I'll put a link to a Google Drive folder where you'll be able to find all of our trainings, including today's training. Watch the video, answer a couple questions that lets me know that you watched that video and you learned something from the training, and we'll get you that certificate of participation. You can find that if you go to our webpage at africafiremission.org. There you'll be able to go to the resources tab. It'll either be on the top or the side of the screen, depending on the device that you're accessing it from. Go to the resources tab, bunch of different free resources there for African firefighters. Everything from fire prevention materials to training materials, all sorts of good stuff. I encourage you to go there and check that out. Utilize those free resources that we're making available to you. At the top of the hour, when we complete today's training, we'll be having our tea time. We'll have Errol hosting our tea time. Tea time is a time where you can discuss more about today's class, ask any other questions that you may have. It's also just a great place that you can network with other firefighters from throughout Africa. If you see so far people are introducing themselves, we've got people from a couple of different countries here. It's a great time to network with fellow firefighters. So if you've got the time in the bundles, I invite you to stick around for that as well. Now, without any further ado, I am going to pass things over to my friend Brian to get us started with today's training.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Earl. I appreciate you guys and all you do. Welcome to everyone. Like Chief said, we got a kind of a deep topic. Sometimes it's hard to talk about this. But if you talk about it, that's how you're going to get through and how it's going to help us overcome some of the stigmas around firefighter and first responder mental health. So so today's topic is firefighter and mental health, first responder mental health. It doesn't matter if you're an EMT or a police officer or whatever. We all deal with the same issues. Okay, so I recognize most of you that put your name in the chats, at least as returning students. So thank you for your commitment. Just a little bit about me for those who haven't attended one of my classes. Started firefighting in 2004. I've served on career and volunteer fire departments, from rookie to volunteer fire chief to paid fire marshal, and kind of everything in between. Currently, I'm a firefighter, a volunteer firefighter for Velva Fire and Rescue in North Dakota, which is like the center of the United States, touching Canada. And for a career, I'm a safety coordinator for the Rocky Mountains division of my company in the oil field. So my area would be from like North Dakota through the Rocky Mountains in the western United States and up into Alaska. So I monitor the safety of all my employees there. I've been with Africa Fire Mission since 2019 as an instructor. Got a Master's of Homeland Security Emergency Management. I currently serve as a peer counselor for the state of North Dakota CISM team. CISM is Critical Incident Stress Management, and we'll talk a little bit about that later on. So, okay, come on. Oh no, my computer froze on me. There we go. So to start with, let's talk about Sergeant Donovan. Sergeant Donovan, I was a firefighter at the age of 17. I started when I was 15, but in this story, I was 17 years old, serving on the fire department. And back then, I was a little wild, especially when it came to my driving. I drove fast everywhere. Sergeant Donovan pulled me over for going too fast, and he sees my little firefighter sticker on the back window of my car. He comes up to me and he says, "Hey, I need to just slow down through that town." And then we went on and talked about a fire we just had the week before together, where he responded as a sheriff officer and I responded as a firefighter. We talked about the fire. Fast forward about 2 weeks later, I'm getting ready to leave for basic training for the Army, and I go to my friend's house just to have a goodbye party. And Sergeant Donovan was there. And my friend's like, "Hey, have you met our new sheriff for the county, Sergeant Donovan?" It's like, "Yeah, we've met." So overall, Sergeant Donovan and I became great friends. And up until the point I moved away from Iowa to North Dakota, we did a lot together, saved a lot of lives, pulled people from mangled up cars, carried old ladies downstairs that were just sick or fell, picked up the old ladies off the bathroom floor, and every call in between. Great guy, a Catholic, firm believer, Catholicism. Had 5 kids, volunteered on the city council, just a good all-around person. And then 3 years ago, for whatever reason that we don't know, he decided to take his own life. And I would give anything right now if I could just give him a hug and tell him not to do it. right? The United States lost a really good person that day, and it stemmed from his service to his community and seeing the things he was exposed to, and also some of the PTSD and stress that comes along with that. So if you get nothing else from this class today, just know that I love you and I don't want to hear another one of my friends taking their life. And I can say with confidence that the volunteers at Africa Fire Mission have that same mindset where we all love you. We're here to give you the tools you need to help you through this. Okay. We're going to talk about stats later, but realistically, there's quite a few people on this call that have been depressed and felt that anxiety, and felt like maybe it's better if they end their life. And I'm telling you right now, it's not. We can get through this together as a team, and there's ways to help. And by the end of this class today, I'm going to give you some of that hope. Okay. There's a lot of information out there about first responders and how mental health is impacted and how we can improve it. But part of our issue is our pride. We have all these sharks that represent, PTSD, depression, marital status, thoughts of suicide. And you can throw more in there, anxiety, financial issues. And as firefighters, and we're going to talk about a little bit about our behavior and how we think later on, but as firefighters, we don't want to burden someone with our problems, right? We're supposed to be the person to fix everyone else's problem. When our neighbor calls, they have a problem and we need to go there and fix it. And we don't want to burden someone with our problems. But that's going to weigh us down. And that's going to make us feel isolated. And then that's going to be a hard feeling to overcome, okay? Unless we do trainings like this, unless we talk about it. So stress first aid is about self-care, okay? And it's also about watching out for your fellow firefighters, your fellow EMTs, your fellow first responders. In this particular stress first aid, they say there's 7 early signs of actions. There's so much information out there. I tried to condense it down to what would be like a 50-minute class or maybe an hour. I like to give you a little bit of time to ask questions. So it's pretty hard to get it all narrowed down. But stress first aid is developed for those in high-risk occupations where you're exposed to this trauma on a routine basis, like the military, fire rescue, law enforcement, EMS. We see these car accidents and body parts that aren't attached to bodies anymore, or something like that. That's just not a normal thing for the brain to comprehend. We're not wired as a human species to repeatedly see trauma and just be okay with it. And like I said, we're going to talk about behaviors in a little bit here, but firefighters fall into a certain category of behaviors, and we're really not wired to do it. But let's talk about stress first. So we talked about stress first aid, but can stress actually be good? Yes. Stress is essential for growth and development, acquiring new skills, meeting challenges. It builds resilience, basically. So I have a 2-year-old son right now, okay? And I have a 12-year-old daughter. My son likes to sleep in my room. I put his little bed next to my bed, and he sleeps there, and he sleeps great. If I move his bed to his room, he gets stressed out. He gets anxiety. He doesn't like to be alone at night. But it's not going to be healthy for him if he's 12 and 15 years old or whatever, excuse me, to be sleeping in a bed in our room, right? We have, as parents, we have to push our kids to grow. And by pushing our kids to grow, we're stressing them out, but we're controlling the stress in a manner that they can handle and cope with it. Okay. And that's the key of being a good parent is that watching your child growth and understanding when you're putting too much on them or when they can take a little bit more. So stress can be a good thing. A couple different types of stress. You have acute and a chronic. So acute is something that's immediate and short-lived, no matter what illness or injury or whatever you're talking about. An acute illness is maybe the flu, or COVID-19. You got that, you became sick, you got over it, hopefully, and it was a matter of a week or two. Excuse me. That's an acute. It's short-lived, and then you're back to normal. Chronic is the accumulation over time. So chronic illness would be cancer. As firefighters, we're exposed to carcinogens all the time. After years and years of breathing in that carcinogens in the fire ground, we can develop cancer. That's because it's building up in our system. That's a chronic illness. So acute stress is what's going to activate our fight or flight response. And this is a good thing, right? As a human species, it's going to keep us alive. Now, firefighters, we're trained to fight. That's the name of our job, literally. If there's an issue, if there's danger or something, we have to be the ones that go in there and fix it. And we do that by fighting. And we can be proud of our job. We can be aggressive, and we can be safe all at the same time, right? And what we see a lot in this acute stress is that building the resilience. The first couple fires you go to, you might be scared, like, what did I get myself into? And that's perfectly okay. But you're building that resilience up to where you become a veteran of the fire department. You get 10, 15 years on, and now you're watching over the new hires. And you're watching over these new young firefighters as they grow to take your place. So that's much like parenting. It's you're taking this stress and you're turning it into your advantage. This is needed for the fire service to continue to grow and to continue to recruit new firefighters and sustain something that our public needs and demands of us. Sorry about that. So acute stress can be negative too. It can be, I just saw this really bad call and I'm having a hard time dealing with it. Right? We all see some things that are intense and that humans just don't normally see. Multiple fatalities, burn victims, stuff like that. And when it comes to acute stress in particular, you might think that you get over it, but something might trigger it later down the road. I was doing a debriefing for another police officer that committed suicide. And this is like a year or so ago here in North Dakota. Now, all his friends and coworkers are in this room as I'm debriefing them, and a train goes by the building and blasts its horn. Okay, so now everyone in that room that was stressed out because of this one incident is going to relate train horns to that debriefing. It like cemented it into their brain, and they won't think about it, like they won't sit here and like, oh, train debriefing, but it's gonna trigger something inside of them that will stick with them for a long period of time. So that's acute stress. It can be good, it can be bad, but we can manage it either way. I don't know why my computer is so slow today. So chronic stress is accumulation of events over time. This is where first responders really get into trouble. Now, there has been cases where a first responder saw some events, that some acute stress type events, and did go home and end their life, but typically that's pretty rare. Normally those type of things are caused by chronic stress, and the chronic stress can be caused by a lot of different things. Injury from like a previous life threat or traumatic injury. What we see is if you were in a motor vehicle accident that almost ended your life, when you respond to a motor vehicle accident, you're going to have this heightened sense of awareness. You can put yourself into that position really, really easily, right? And over time, responding to motor vehicle accidents over and over again, and you putting yourself in that driver's seat of that car, that creates chronic stress. Grief adds chronic stress. If you ever are part of a line of duty death, you start thinking, well, why did he die and I survive? A lot of New York firefighters struggled with this after 9/11. We all work in areas where we live. We know some of the people that we rescue. Some of us, I work in a really small town. When I go to a call, there's a 70 or an 80% chance I know the people on the call, like, that are impacted. Like that can create grief, seeing their pain and suffering. So when you look at this chart on the right here, this is called the DISC assessment. Okay. So if you've ever done this DISC assessment, almost all of us would end up here in the S. We're even-tempered, accommodating, patient, humble, tactful. And one that should be on this list that isn't is empathetic. We can feel the pain and suffering of our patients. And when you do a DISC assessment, they can break this down even further into little grids. Okay, so there might be 30 or grids or so here in this one S, and we're all like right in the middle of this S for the most part. Of course, there's some outliers, but 75% of people would fall right there in the middle of the S. We're all the same. That's the reason why we're good at our jobs, though, is because we have that empathy, we have that patience, we're even tempered, right? When we see these events, when we go to these fires that are just pure chaos, we can remain calm and controlled, and we can bring this scene that's chaos into a conclusion where typically no one else gets hurt and we don't lose any more property. That's the point of our job. So that's called the DISC assessment. And like I said, we really need to add empathy into that because we're very empathetic people, but that can lead to a lot of grief and internal conflicts. So what does internal conflicts mean that can cause stress? If you go to a domestic violence call and some husband just beat up his wife, or a child got hurt because the parent lost their temper, that creates internal conflict, right? Because we are very empathetic to the patient that is hurt, but we can't do anything about it. And like I said, we're the fixers, and we want to do something about it. We want to make sure this child's never going to get hurt again, but we have to realize that's not our role. We just need to fix the child right now, and hopefully the law enforcement and the judicial system can fix the other problem, right? So we start having these internal conflicts that start building up stress. And there's an accumulation of stress over multiple calls and multiple sources over time. It doesn't have to be bad calls, if you start seeing, if you go to a kitchen fire and maybe you have a good knockdown on the fire and it did good, you still go home thinking, man, that family can't cook supper tonight because their kitchen's burnt. It doesn't have to be bad calls all the time. Maybe it's just a lot of calls. Maybe you're used to running, a call a day, and now for the past couple of weeks you've been running 6 or 10 calls a day. That's really going to impact your chronic stress. So how does stress impact us? Trouble sleeping, flashback memories, right? Family and relationship issues. Maybe you just go home and your wife says, "Hi, how are you?" and it irritates you that your wife spoke to you, right? Substance abuse. Maybe if you're used to drinking 1 Tusker, now you're up to like 5 Tuskers a day. That's a sign that the stress is impacting you. And of course, suicidal thoughts. So we need to be aware of ourselves to look into the stress. Is it normal for you to have trouble sleeping? It's probably normal for most firefighters to have trouble sleeping, but we need to do something about it. If you're having these unwanted memories and flashbacks, what are we going to do about it? Because it's going to impact us. We can't just live our life being afraid to sleep because we're going to have a nightmare, right? Or maybe, like I said, you smell that one smell, and instantly you have a flashback to that call where the motorcyclist died, something like that. We don't want to live our lives like that, because we still have decades of our life left. So how can we start fixing it? Okay. But first, let's just look at some statistical data. Up to 30% of all firefighters have PTSD. The general population is 1 to 8%. Okay, so we can see that us being exposed to this trauma on a daily basis increases all of our chances of getting PTSD. PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder, for those of you who don't know. Sometimes you could hear it called PTS, post-traumatic stress, because it's not a disorder necessarily. A disorder means there's something wrong with you because you're not handling this right. But post-traumatic stress means, hey, you're just stressed out because you saw something that humans aren't supposed to see. Okay, so you might hear it either way. It means the same thing. If it's called PTSD, if the doctor says you have PTSD, don't take it as there must be something wrong with you. It's just your body is trying to figure out how to respond. Okay. It we call it in the SISM team when we're doing our debriefing, it's how are we going to respond it to an uncommon event. It's a common reaction to an uncommon event because humans don't commonly see what we see. Okay. 40% of firefighters show signs and symptoms of sleep disorders, sleep apnea, nightmares, stuff like that. And 80% of those disorders go undiagnosed. I have sleep apnea, likely related to firefighting. Even if it's not about the stress, it's not good on a body to wake up in the dead of sleep, run downstairs, jump on a truck, and drive fast to a fire call or a car accident or whatever. That, go from sleeping to high adrenaline in a matter of seconds. That's going to create sleep disorders. And then you throw the stress on top of it. Of course, we're going to have a high percentage of sleep disorders. So it's good to go to the doctor and get checked out about your sleep, do sleep studies and stuff. We can be healthy. We can have healthy sleep habits and still be firefighters. Okay. 58% of firefighters are considered binge drinkers. The general population is 16%. Like, that number should be unacceptable to the fire service because we see these car accidents that are caused by drunk drivers. And then how do we cope with it? We go get drunk. And not just drunk, we go binge drink. 58% of people. So that's a huge number, right? And along with PTSD, depression is shown to be one of the strongest predictors of firefighter suicide. In the general population, the strongest predictors are self-harm and struggling with mental illness. Okay, 10 times more likely to contemplate suicide. 3.1% of people have attempted suicide, and 28% of people feel as if their life is not worth living. So these are pretty troubling numbers, right? I can't see how many people are on right now, Mike.
About 70.
Okay. So let's just break this down a little bit. 30% of firefighters have PTSD symptoms. So that's going to be 21 people in this room have symptoms of PTSD. 40% of firefighters show signs of sleep disorders. That's going to be about 30 of us in this room show signs of sleep disorders. Like I said, myself being one of them. And about 60 of us have sleep disorders that are undiagnosed. So don't think that you're the one that's like, oh, I don't have a sleep disorder, because there's only 10 people in this room who probably don't have a sleep disorder. Okay. Man, 58% of firefighters are binge drinkers. So, man, that's going to be like 40 of us. 40 of us are considered binge drinkers. Man, that's a huge number, right? 3.1% have attempted. That means there's a few people here that have attempted suicide. And 28% of us feel as though our life is not worth living. So once again, that's like 20 people here feel as though life is not worth living. And I can promise you, and I can speak confidently that Africa Fire Mission would say the same thing: is we love you and we are here to help you. We are here to encourage you and help you have a successful fire service career. And at the end of your career, you can be proud of what you've done, proud of the lives you saved, and you can retire peacefully. Okay. There really is hope in this. There's a lot of gloom and doom because there's a lot of bad things that we see, but there is hope. Romans 12:12, rejoicing in hope, enduring in troubles, continuing steadfastly in prayer, right? So we can rejoice that there is hope, that we can get through this as a team, and that we can endure all our troubles. And how are we going to do this? Faith is the biggest one, um, at least from my perspective. I wrote this program, so if you have a problem with it, it's straight up me. But First Peter's right, cast all your anxiety onto him because he cares for you. So, we going back to Errol and his words of encouragement talked about Christ and how heavy the cross is, and how the cross, we can all work together, right? Really, that's true. We can take our stress, take our anxiety to the cross, lay them at the cross, and say, Jesus, I know this is hard for me. I know this is stressful for me, but I know you're going to be there with me every step of the way. Okay. And I know not all of us are here are Christians. I know we have Muslims on right now, and I'm sure we have people that don't believe they're in any God, right? But at least in my book, my book says I have to love everyone, right? It's that simple. I don't care what religion you are, or even if you're not religious, but I'm just telling you that faith does play a big impact on your mental health. In your spiritual health, if it's strong, your mental health is also going to be strong. There's a direct correlation. Okay. One thing I like to say is choose reality, be in reality. Where are you currently at, and where do you want to go? And understand that's not going to be a straight line. But choose reality. Okay. If you're the first thing we have to do if you're struggling with your mental health is say, yes, I'm struggling with my mental health. I'm not where I want to be. Right over there is where I want to be, and I'm going to go over there. And just understand that it's not a straight line to get over to there. It's going to be ups and downs all along the way. But like I said in one of the very first slides, stress can be a good thing. Those ups and downs are going to build you stronger, make you resilient. So when you get over there to where you want to be, to where you're mentally healthy, you can turn around and help the next person get over there too, right? They can turn around and help the next two people come over. That's what I mean by choosing reality. We just first have to accept the fact this is where we're at. I don't want to be where I'm at, but I'm going to take steps to get there. Next is control the controllables. There's a whole bunch of factors in our life we can't control. We get called to fix things. We can't control that they had a car accident, right? We just have to go and fix the car accident. We can't control that people are going to pass away sometimes. We can try our best. But sometimes they passed away in a house fire before you even got called to the house fire, right? So let's control what we can control. We can control our finances. That's a huge stressor in all of our lives. We can control our fitness, our health, right? Those are all stressors in our life that we can control. And by controlling the controllables, we're building confidence within ourselves. Like, I got this, you know. If I can get a handle on my finances, you know, if I can pay my bills and tithe 10% to my charity or my church or whatever, then I can do anything, right? It builds that confidence in yourself by controlling the controllables. So when those uncontrollables come, you're confident and you're strong, and you know that you can work through those problems too. Okay, promote a sense of safety. Find people and places or actions that feel safe to you, and call them when you need to feel safer. You know, we might have this one friend we can call and be like, hey, I know for me it's Doug. I call Doug up and it's like, Doug, I am struggling today. Let's just go have some lunch. You know, or Doug, I didn't sleep good last night. I just need to go hang out and maybe we'll watch a football game or something. Okay? Get those people and places that are safe. When you feel unsafe, you can distract yourself by focusing on something near to you, or even controlling your breathing. When you start feeling that stress and that anxiety build up inside of you, just focusing on your breathing is a huge step. So how would you do that? Just breathe in, a big breath, and then you'd hold it, and then you'd release. And you do that 3 or 4 times. Breathe in, release. And that's physically interrupting your thought process. And it's physically slowing you down just to calm you down so you can go back to that, what can I control? What can't I control? And how I can move forward. And then realize that no one is perfect. We're supposed to be the fixers of everything, right? People call the fire department because they don't know what to do, but they know they can call Errol. Errol's going to show up and he is going to fix the problem. That's a lot of pressure on Errol, isn't it? That's a lot of pressure on all of us when we get that call that we have to go to that our friend's house and figure it out. Just understand that we're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. You know, we're going to turn down the wrong road. It's going to add 2 minutes to our response time, and that's going to impact how big this fire gets. It's just part of life, okay? We're not perfect. It's okay. Seek to maintain that calm environment, okay? That breathing deeply, admit your feelings, right? We already talked about that previously. Challenge your thoughts when you start getting that depression, the thoughts like, no one likes me, everyone's judging me. Challenge those thoughts. Be like, wait, no one likes me. Well, Brian told me in March that he likes me, so at least there's that one person that likes me, right? So start challenging those thoughts. Just visualize yourself. When I do meditation, one of the meditation programs I listen to, they are so calm and peaceful, and you can almost see the breath going into your lungs. Because the way they describe it, I'm not very good at it. They'll be like, breathe in. Now focus as the breath works down and into the lungs. And it is so peaceful and relaxing to the point you can almost see it, right? Prioritize your sleep. Get outside. Get that vitamin D. Be healthy. Work out, stuff like that. It all maintains a calm environment. Promote help, okay? Or promote hope, sorry. How do you do this? We can get our hope with others, okay? We don't have to put all that burden on us. Let go of that brick that's weighing us down, like we saw in one of the first pictures. Go and seek counseling. There's multiple types of counseling. Organizational counseling is part of like the SISM team. So when I go out, I'll debrief the entire fire department in one group setting, and we'll talk through what happened, the call they experienced, or whatever. Just it's about the whole organization, and then you can go get individual counseling on top of that. Get career counseling. That helps with your finances. It's one of those control the controllables. Get family counseling. There's a whole bunch of divorce in the fire service. Seek that counseling. Seek the grief counseling. There's just a list of different types of counseling. They all are specialized, and they all can help us. And I know one of the biggest issues is money, obviously. Going back to control the controllables, right? At least in the United States, a lot of the fire departments, they have organizations that will do counseling for free. If you do have to pay for it, I would put it as a priority. Taking care of yourself, your mental health, your physical health should be a priority, right? We got to take care of ourselves, because we do no good to the people we're supposed to take care of if we're not healthy. So if we want to continue to serve our community and provide that hope for the community, we need to provide that hope for us first. And connect with others. If you go back to that DISC assessment we talked about a little bit, and that was just a very small glimpse, right? That DISC assessment could be an 8-hour course. But if you go back to that DISC assessment, one of the things is we're not meant to be alone. As firefighters, we recharge typically by being around people. Okay. My wife's the complete opposite. She's an introvert. She being around people drains her battery, basically. She likes to be around people, but then it comes down to the point her battery's drained. She just needs to go get some alone time and recharge her batteries. We're the opposite as firefighters. If we're alone, it starts draining our battery. So we need to get around other firefighters. We need to go wash the fire trucks in the fire hall just to do something. Maybe the trucks were already washed today. I'm going to go wash them again just to do something, and that recharges our battery, and it gives us that confidence, that motivation, that hope, and everything we talked about today. It gives us that just by connecting with others. It gives us that support system. And that last bullet point, do daily tasks. Make a schedule if needed. Even if it's just, I need to take out the trash, because that's something that those little things be like, hey, I took out the trash, that's a win, right? Even if it's, I got my shower in today and I brushed my teeth, that's a win. Those wins do add up. So connecting with others is a big deal. Some final things here is some resources. First Responders Center for Excellence. This is a great website here. First Responders firefightercenter.org. They have online classes you can take about first aid or stress first aid, mental health in the fire service, or in first responders in general. They have some good online courses, a lot of good publications. It's a really good website to have in your back pocket, and it'd be a great website to do company level training. Those of you who take my class know that I like to leave you with something that you can take back to your fire department. This is it. Like I said, the first and foremost, I want you to know that you are loved and that we care about you. If you take anything from class, take that. But this would be the second one, right? Take this website, take it back to your fire stations, complete some of those online trainings as that group, right? Because we literally just talked about connecting with others, right? So go as a group, go to this website, do some of those online classes. It's really going to build that team up. Okay. Then there's a whole bunch of publications. I just put 3 here, 3 random ones. Obviously during the COVID-19 pandemic, there was a large increase of mental health issues from firefighters. And for a variety of reasons. Obviously, it's a lot of stress dealing with something that large of a worldwide pandemic, right? But also, how do we start to fix our mental health? We connect with others. What's the one thing we couldn't do during COVID-19? Connect with others. We couldn't go to church during the COVID-19. We couldn't go and hang out at a restaurant or, do things as a group of people anymore. And as firefighters, we really do need that. So that talks about there's a whole bunch of studies on the COVID-19 pandemic and first responder mental health, and these are just some other ones too. So some resources at the end there for you. Let's see, where are we at here? This one. All right. Any questions? Aiden, you got your hand up. Sorry, I can't see when you guys raise your hands. What questions do you have?
Adam, you can go ahead and unmute yourself if you've got a question. Anyone else has a question?
Hi,
No.
Mike. I've got a question to Brian.
Yeah.
Okay. Brian, what's the relationship between feelings, emotions, and psychological what do we call it? Feelings, emotions, and psychological thoughts? How do they relate in terms of showing signs of stress as a responder?
Okay, so in order to understand this, we have to understand like the old fire service. The old fire service is you show up to a call, you see some blood and guts on the road, and the old captain would slap you on the back and say, "Suck it up, let's go have a beer." You weren't allowed to have emotions. It showed that you're a weak firefighter if you had emotions, right? We realized that's not the case anymore. Showing emotions, having emotions doesn't make you a weak firefighter, it just makes you a human being. When we go to that DISC assessment I showed, it shows that all of us here have a lot of empathy. And unfortunately, what that means is we can typically put ourselves in our patient's shoes. And we've all been to those calls where it's like I would give anything, for my patient to not have pain. If that means you put that pain on me, I'll burden the pain. Just take it away from my patient. You go to that child that was just been in a car accident and is screaming and in pain, be like, Lord, take the pain from the child and put it on me. I can bear it. That's a lot of responsibility for us. It's definitely emotional for us. And if we just keep shoving it in the bottle and putting it in the back of our head, it's going to come out. And you don't know when it's going to come out. It could be a smell, it could be a sound, whatever. It's just triggered. One example is I went to a motorcycle accident one time. Blood all over the road. Fatality motorcycle accident. And it's a road I have to drive every day to go to work. And I literally, for 2 months, took a different way to work because when I could see cars driving over that blood, I knew that they're thinking someone must have hit a deer and that's deer blood on the road, and I knew it wasn't. So for 2 months, I took a different way to work. And that's probably telling me that I wasn't doing a good job focusing on my mental health. Because I was just putting things in the bottle, putting it in the back of my head and forgetting about it. And then it started to come out, right? So that's how emotions can impact us.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else have any other questions or comments with regards to today's training? Floor is open for a few more moments in the formal portion of our training before we transition into our tea time. Go ahead, Adelina.
I was trying to unmute. Good afternoon, guys. How are you guys?
Good, very good.
Sorry for being late. I was so busy in town doing some things. Yeah, I've got something. I've got a tendency of raising my voice to my colleagues in the fire scene when we are inside a building. But the reason that I see, once they are doing unsafe practice, then I start like raising my voice on them just to keep them alert. I don't know if is it a good idea or is it an unsafe idea?
I wouldn't think raising your voice is a bad thing necessarily. What's happening though is you're concerned about their safety, and that's a stressor for you, and that's how your body's reacting to stress. Now, that's okay that your body reacts to stress that way, and it keeps your fellow firefighters safe. What the concern would be is if it changes. So if you're like, I'm a very even-tempered, mellow person, if all of a sudden I start going to fire calls and I'm yelling at everyone, that's the concern, is the change. But how you're raising your voice to your colleagues to keep them safe, that's okay if that's just what you do, because that's how your body's handling the stressor. So.
And as long as it's addressed
Okay.
in that debriefing too, right, where you talk about it afterwards and sort of explain, why it was doing it, and you see that it's not necessarily done out of anger, but out of protection, no worries there.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's one of those things where you need to talk about those types of things and not bottle those things up too, so that your crew doesn't think that you're angry at them, or discuss what happened and make sure everybody understands that it was only to help protect them, right? So lots to think about. We're up against our sort of time. We're going to wrap up the formal portion of our training here. I invite you all to stick around, though, if you've got the time in the bundles, as we're going to carry on this conversation. Let me just thank Brian for coming again and leading a great class. This is a tough topic to talk about, and but it's something that's so needed in what we do. So thank you, Brian, for uh, not the easiest talk to give, and appreciate you doing that for us. We also appreciate all of you out there that took the time out of your schedules to do this. Please keep this topic at the forefront of your minds. Um, um, it's really important for our family life, our spiritual health, everything to really stay focused on these issues and take care of ourselves and our brothers and sisters that we serve with. So I'm going to wrap things up. We've got plenty of seats here available, guys. If there's somebody that you think will benefit from this training, please feel free to share that registration link or those registration emails that you get. And connect with us on our different social media applications. Check us out on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's some TikTok. There's some Facebook. There's all sorts of social media that you can find us through. If you go to our website, africafiremission.org, down at the bottom, there's links to all of our social stuff that I'm not well versed in, but if you follow that kind of stuff, please connect with us in that way. And I hope to see all of you again next week. Thanks, everyone.